All right, so today we are diving into BRICS expansion, and wow, 23 countries are looking to join BRICS in 2025.
Yeah, that's a lot.
23. I mean, that's not a
Yeah.
typo. That's like the whole world suddenly wants to be part of this.
Yeah, this exclusive club, it seems like.
Yeah, and begs the question, um, is BRICS about to like reshape the world order, with
Yeah.
this kind of surge?
It's certainly a sign of the times,
Yeah.
and I think it really does make you wonder that BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, I mean, it was formed with this goal of challenging Western economic dominance
Right.
and, creating a new world order.
Yeah, so it's like their goal is being realized in a sense
Potentially.
with all this interest.
Yeah.
It seems like things really kicked into high gear after Indonesia officially joined
Yeah, Indonesia joining was a huge moment.
earlier this year.
I mean, really a watershed moment, if you think about
Yeah.
it. Southeast Asia's largest economy, strategically located on key trade routes,
Right.
a population of nearly 280 million.
Wow.
That's a serious, power play, and it adds a whole new dimension to BRICS's influence.
I can't help but picture Indonesia as this like bustling hub with ships from all corners of the world converging in its ports.
Right.
It's like they're at the crossroads of global trade.
You're spot on. I mean, their location gives them serious leverage in global supply chains.
Yeah.
Which is a form of power in itself, but I think it also signals a desire for greater control over their own destiny, moving away from a reliance on Western institutions. And that sentiment is resonating with a lot of other countries right now.
Yeah, it's like they want to take control of their future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that brings us to this whole de-dollarization concept, which seems to be a major driving force behind this whole BRICS craze.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, even Venezuela wanting in on this.
Yeah.
What is the big draw for them?
Well, de-dollarization, it's the idea of shifting global trade and finance away from the U.S. dollar. It's about breaking free from the dollar's dominance and creating a more multipolar financial system.
Okay, so like less reliance on one single currency.
Exactly.
Got it.
And for countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, which hold significant U.S. dollar reserves,
Right.
it's about diversifying their assets and reducing their exposure to U.S. economic policies.
So it's like they're hedging their bets a little bit.
Yeah.
Preparing for a future where the dollar might not be as mighty as it is today.
Absolutely. And for countries like Venezuela, which have been heavily sanctioned by the U.S.,
Right.
BRICS membership offers a way to circumvent those sanctions and participate in a global financial system that's not controlled by the West.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how would this de-dollarization actually work in practice?
Right.
Like what would it look like for, everyday transactions?
Well, imagine a scenario where instead of using U.S. dollars for international trade, countries start using their own currencies.
Okay.
Or a basket of currencies agreed upon by BRICS members. We could see the emergence of new financial institutions and payment systems that operate outside of the traditional SWIFT system.
So instead of everything being priced in dollars, we might see oil being traded in yuan or Venezuelan goods being exchanged for Indian rupees.
Right.
It's mind-boggling to think about how this would ripple through the global economy.
It would be a paradigm shift for sure, and it's something that the West is definitely taking notice of.
Right.
Remember when former U.S. President Donald Trump hinted at imposing 100% tariffs in response to BRICS expansion?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a clear sign that the U.S. feels threatened by this growing movement.
It's interesting because this de-dollarization wouldn't just impact like governments and big corporations, right?
Right.
I mean, if the dollar's global dominance weakens, wouldn't that affect all of us in some way?
Absolutely. Think about it. Fluctuations in the U.S. dollar already impact everything from the price of imported goods to the cost of traveling abroad.
Right.
A shift away from the dollar could lead to greater currency volatility, which could make planning for the future a lot more challenging for individuals and businesses alike. But it could also create opportunities for new markets and investments as global trade becomes more diversified.
So like a double-edged sword in a way.
Actually, yeah.
It's like we're standing on the precipice of a whole new era in global finance.
Right.
With both exciting possibilities and potential risks on the horizon. But this de-dollarization isn't the only reason countries are flocking to BRICS, is it?
Definitely not for resource-rich nations like Venezuela and Nigeria,
Right.
which often face exploitation and unfair trade practices. BRICS membership offers a chance to control their own resources and destinies.
Okay.
It's about using their natural wealth to fuel their own development rather than lining the pockets of Western corporations.
So for countries with vast oil reserves, for example, BRICS membership could mean being able to sell that oil on their own terms,
Yeah.
potentially bypassing U.S.-controlled markets and avoiding crippling sanctions.
Precisely imagine a scenario where Venezuela, instead of being forced to sell its oil in U.S. dollars, could strike a deal with, say, India and trade oil for rupees directly.
Okay.
That kind of arrangement could give them significantly more leverage and control over their resources.
And that sounds like a pretty attractive proposition, especially for countries that have felt marginalized and exploited by the current system.
It is, and that's why BRICS expansion is particularly appealing in regions like Latin America, where countries are rich in resources but have often struggled to translate that wealth into tangible benefits for their people.
Right. And this desire for economic independence, it resonates particularly strongly in Latin America, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially considering the historical context of U.S. influence in the region. It's
Right.
like they're looking for a new model of partnership, one that's based on mutual respect and shared benefits rather than dominance and control.
You're right to highlight that historical context. Latin America has often been seen as America's backyard, and there's a growing sentiment that this relationship hasn't always been equitable. BRICS, with its emphasis on South cooperation and its rejection of Western hegemony, offers a different path forward,
Right.
a chance to break free from those historical patterns.
And with Brazil as the current president of BRICS, it seems like they're in a prime position to spearhead that movement in Latin America.
Yeah, Brazil is definitely playing a key role in bringing more Latin American countries into the BRICS fold.
Yeah.
And the region has a lot to offer. Think lithium in Bolivia and Chile, which is essential for electric vehicle batteries.
Yeah.
Oil in Venezuela, vast agricultural resources in Argentina and Brazil.
Wow.
It's a treasure trove that BRICS is eager to tap into.
But wouldn't accepting like a large number of countries dilute BRICS's overall economic power?
Yeah.
Is there a risk of being too selective?
That's the million-dollar question. While expanding membership can enhance BRICS's clout on the world stage, it also comes with the challenge of maintaining unity and focus.
Okay.
It's a balancing act.
So it's about finding the right balance between expanding their influence and preserving their core principles and objectives.
Exactly. And that's why BRICS is taking a measured approach to expansion.
Okay.
Focusing on countries that not only bring economic weight, but also align with their vision for a multipolar world. They're being strategic, picking players who can strengthen the team and contribute to their shared goals.
So BRICS is playing this expansion game very strategically,
Yeah.
carefully selecting members who can contribute to their long-term objectives. But is it just about economics, or is there something bigger at play here?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore further as we delve deeper into the implications of BRICS expansion.
So we've established that BRICS expansion is about more than just like adding numbers, you know?
It really is. It's about reshaping the global landscape.
Yeah.
Challenging the existing power structures.
Right.
Creating a new world order where countries like those in BRICS have a greater say.
It's almost like they're building a new world order brick by brick.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And just like with any construction project,
No pun intended, of course.
of course you need the right materials,
Right.
the right tools,
Yeah.
and a clear blueprint.
So if BRICS is constructing this new world order, what kind of blueprint are they using? What are their guiding principles?
Well, their primary focus is on promoting multipolarity, which essentially means moving away from a world dominated by a single superpower.
Okay, so instead of having one country calling all the shots,
Right.
we'd see a more balanced distribution of power.
Exactly. And this multipolarity extends beyond just politics.
Yeah.
It encompasses economics, finance, trade, and even cultural influence.
That's a pretty radical departure from the way things have been for the past few decades.
It is.
How do they plan to actually achieve this?
Well, one of their key strategies is to foster cooperation and collaboration among developing nations.
Okay.
They believe that by working together, they can create a more equitable and just global system.
So it's about strength in numbers.
Yes, but it's also about solidarity and shared purpose.
Got it. They want to create a platform where countries can support each other's development and stand up for their collective interests.
It seems like they're also placing a strong emphasis on de-dollarization as a way to break free from Western financial dominance.
Yeah, de-dollarization is a crucial part of their strategy.
Okay.
They want to create alternative financial systems that aren't reliant on the U.S. dollar,
Right.
which they see as a tool of Western control.
But how would that work in practice? What kind of alternative systems are we talking about?
Well, one possibility is the creation of a new international reserve currency,
Okay.
possibly a BRICS currency basket
Kind
that
of.
could be used for trade and investment among member countries.
So instead of using dollars for international transactions, we might see countries using this new BRICS currency,
Yeah.
potentially.
And this could have a significant impact on the global financial landscape.
It really could. It could reduce the dollar's influence and create more stability for countries that are currently vulnerable to fluctuations in the U.S. economy.
But wouldn't creating a new currency be incredibly complex?
Yeah.
How would they even go about doing that?
It would certainly be a challenging undertaking.
Yeah.
It would require a high level of coordination and agreement among BRICS members.
Right.
They would need to establish a new monetary system,
Uh-huh.
determine exchange rates,
Right.
and ensure the stability of the new currency.
It sounds like they need to create an entirely new financial infrastructure from the ground up.
In many ways, yes, but they're already taking steps in that direction. For instance, they've established the new Development Bank,
Yeah.
which is a BRICS-led alternative to the World Bank and the IMF.
Yes, the new development bank.
Yeah.
It's like their answer to the Western-dominated financial institutions. Can you remind us how the NDB is different?
Sure. The NDB is designed to provide funding for infrastructure and development projects in BRICS countries and other emerging economies.
So it's like a parallel lending system,
Yeah,
but with a focus on projects that align with BRICS' development goals.
exactly. And one of the key differences is that the NDB operates on a more equitable basis.
Okay.
It doesn't impose the same kind of conditions and restrictions that often come with loans from the World Bank or the IMF.
So no strings attached?
Well, not quite no strings attached, but definitely a different approach.
Got it.
The NDB's focus is on sustainable development,
Okay.
supporting projects that benefit local communities
Yeah.
and don't just serve the interests of foreign investors.
That sounds like a much more appealing proposition for countries that have felt exploited by traditional lending institutions.
It is, and it's one of the reasons why the NDB has gained traction so quickly.
Okay.
It's seen as a more transparent and accountable institution that's genuinely committed to promoting development in the global south.
So the NDB is like a key piece of the puzzle in BRICS' effort to create this new world order.
Absolutely. It provides them with a financial tool that they can use to support their development goals and challenge the dominance of Western financial institutions.
All of this makes it clear that BRICS expansion isn't just about economic gain or political power.
Yeah.
It's about reshaping the very foundations of the global system.
It is. It's about creating a world where power is more evenly distributed, where developing countries have a stronger voice, and where global governance is more inclusive and democratic.
That's a pretty ambitious goal,
Yeah.
but it also raises a lot of questions. If this new world order takes shape, what will it look like? Who will be the winners and losers?
Those are questions we'll continue to explore as we wrap up this deep dive into BRICS expansion. But first, let's take a moment to connect this to your life, dear listener.
Okay.
Because these global shifts aren't just happening in some far-off boardroom.
Yeah.
They have real-world implications for all of us.
I'm all ears. Help me understand how this might affect me. Someone who isn't exactly negotiating international trade deals on a daily basis.
Think about it this way. The rise of BRICS and the move toward a multipolar world could lead to a more balanced global economy,
Okay.
one that's less dependent on the U.S. dollar and more resilient to economic shocks.
Okay, I'm following, but how does that translate to my everyday life?
Imagine a world where your currency is more stable because it's not tied to the whims of the U.S. economy, or where you have more choices when it comes to where you buy your goods and services because global trade isn't dominated by a single currency.
So more options, more stability.
If
That
we-
actually sounds pretty good.
It could be, but there are also potential downsides.
Right.
A multipolar world could also be more complex and unpredictable.
Right.
And as new power structures emerge, there's always the risk of conflict and instability.
Okay, so it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
This BRICS expansion is a pretty big deal,
Right.
with a lot of potential consequences, both good and bad.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to understand what's happening and to think critically about the implications, because this isn't just about economics or geopolitics. It's about the future we're all creating together.
Okay, so we've talked about like the motivations behind BRICS expansion,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
potential for de-dollarization
Mhm.
and the implications for like a multipolar world. But what does all this actually mean for like the average person, you know?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do these like massive global shifts translate into tangible changes in our daily lives?
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the geopolitical drama, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think we all want to know how this is going to affect our wallets, our jobs, our future.
Right. Well, one of the most immediate impacts could be on the cost of goods and services.
Okay.
As BRICS countries gain more economic power and the U.S. dollar's dominance potentially weakens, we could see shifts in global trade patterns and currency valuations.
So could that mean higher prices for imported goods?
It's certainly possible.
Or maybe even cheaper products from BRICS countries as their currencies become stronger?
Yeah, a shift away from the U.S. dollar could lead to greater currency volatility, which could make it more expensive to import goods from countries that continue to use the dollar as their primary currency, on the other hand. It could also create opportunities for consumers to access more affordable goods and services from BRICS countries as their currencies become more competitive.
So it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Some prices might go up, others might go down.
Exactly. And it's not just about consumer goods. Think about travel, for example. If the dollar weakens against currencies like the yuan or the rupee, it could become more expensive for Americans to travel to those countries.
Well, that's a good point. And I imagine it would work the other way around too, right? It might become more affordable for people from BRICS countries to travel to the U.S. or other Western nations if their currencies strengthen.
Precisely. So we could see shifts in tourism patterns as well.
Yeah.
Potentially more people from BRICS countries traveling abroad and perhaps fewer Americans venturing overseas.
These are all really interesting scenarios to consider. But beyond these immediate economic impacts, what are some of the longer-term implications of a multipolar world?
Well, one potential benefit is greater diversification and resilience in the global economy.
Okay.
If power is distributed more evenly across multiple poles, it reduces the risk of any single country or bloc having too much influence.
So it's like spreading the risk, so to speak.
Yeah.
Instead of having all our eggs in one basket, we have multiple centers of economic activity.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And this could make the global economy more resistant to shocks and crises. For example, if one region experiences a recession or a financial meltdown, it wouldn't necessarily drag down the entire world economy.
That sounds like a positive development.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that a multipolar world could also be more complex and unpredictable.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Of course, as power becomes more diffuse, it can also create more opportunities for competition and rivalry between different power centers. We could see an increase in geopolitical tensions, trade wars, or even military conflicts as countries vie for influence and resources.
So while a multipolar world might offer greater economic stability on a global scale, it could also lead to more regional instability and conflict.
That's a possibility we need to consider, and it underscores the importance of diplomacy, cooperation, and conflict resolution in a multipolar world. If countries can find ways to manage their differences peacefully and work together to address common challenges, then a multipolar world could usher in an era of greater prosperity and stability for all.
It sounds like we're at a crossroads with both immense potential and significant risks on the horizon as individuals. What can we do to prepare for this uncertain future?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed and engaged, pay attention to what's happening in the world, read about different perspectives on BRICS expansion and the shifting global landscape, and don't be afraid to ask questions and challenge your own assumptions.
It's about being an active participant in shaping the future rather than just a passive observer.
Exactly. And remember, even seemingly distant global events can have ripple effects that touch our lives in unexpected ways. The more we understand these interconnected dynamics, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into BRICS expansion. We hope this has given you a better understanding of what's at stake and why this is such a pivotal moment in history.
It's been a fascinating discussion, and we encourage you to continue exploring these topics on your own. The world is changing rapidly, and staying informed is more important than ever.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep engaging with the world around you.